Undertale. It's hard to believe this game came out almost 2 years ago. Time sure has flown by. There were so many oddities in this game that certainly deserve the spotlight, and so many different characters that held secrets. From the likelihood of Sans being a human, to the mysterious doctor, first child, and dog that brought this game world to its knees. However, during all of this, I glossed over one character. One character in particular that I only reference seldomly, a person bound to the water of the underground. Onion-san. I mean the river person. Sorry, Oni-san. The river person is definitely an odd character within the realm of the underground. They act as your source of fast traveling throughout the game, and are always waiting for your return. They appear to be in a jolly mood as well, as they hum along with the phrase tra-la-la when you approach. Concealed in a dark cloak, they dock at water's edge and happily transport you to and fro across the underground. The only other person in the game to actually acknowledge that they exist is Papyrus. No one else mentions them, and Papyrus simply asks if they are there. And this is why they're so mysterious. Characters in the game either don't mention that they exist, or that they are forgotten by most. They are like a character that dwells in the background, a face in the crowd that you simply skip over. And in some ways, I get the snowman vibe from the river person. In both rooms, Papyrus asks if they are still there, but the conversation stops after that point. Undyne's conversation is a little harder to understand. She states, "That river connects to Snowdin and Hotland. If you need to get from one place to another, jump in." Look, that's all we got for public transport, okay? The reason I say it's harder to understand is because I can't tell if she's saying, "jump in the boat," or if she's still referring to the river. It makes sense if she was referring to the river because she's a fish-type monster and can swim quite fast. However, public transportation can very well be referring to the boat that the river person navigates with, and not actually the river itself. So, she's either acknowledging this person is here on a boat, or she's telling you to jump in the river because she doesn't know a boat is there. Anyways, back to the whole mysterious thing with this person in particular. There's a few things that I want to cover. Starting off, when you first encounter the river person, you are hit with an interesting piece of dialogue. Tra-la-la, I am the riverman. Or am I the river woman? It doesn't really matter. I love to ride in my boat. Would you care to join me? Right off the bat, the river person begins to talk in riddles. They claim that their gender doesn't really matter, and that it's quite possible that they are genderless. However, after this point, they delve into complete nonsense from a character standpoint. From claiming the water is very dry today, to declaring that they should have worn several million more pairs of pants. Sprinkled between these nonsensical statements, or at least what are deemed nonsensical, is dialogue that really cranks up the mysteriousness on this character to 99. They identify plot points in the game, character weaknesses during battles, solutions to the puzzles of the underground, and so much more. But how do they do this? They even have knowledge of things outside the realm of reality, like potential references to W.D. Gaster and other outlier characters. Why do they have this ability of foresight and this all-encompassing knowledge? The river person definitely draws inspiration from many legends and mythology, or at least it seems to be that way. Many people say this character is based off of Charon, who navigates the waters of the river Styx. Charon is a ferryman in Greek mythology, who carries the souls of those who have died across from the land of the living over to the land of the dead. Seeing as the river person navigates the waters of the underground, although not quite the underworld, it seems fitting. The Grim Reaper-like cloak seems appropriate as well, since Charon's brother was Thanatos, who was the personification of death. Another reference that I picked up on comes from one of the river person's messages. Did you ever hear the old song coming from the sea? A lot of people online correlate this with the possibility that it could be hinting at the sound test room. But my mind immediately went elsewhere. When I think of songs coming from the sea, I immediately think of the Odyssey. The songs that came from the sea in this tale were that of sirens, which would lead the listener to death by shipwreck. In other mediums, sirens served as psychopomps, whose duty was to escort souls to the afterlife. I found this particularly interesting because there's a character in the game designed after one of these creatures, and her name is Shiren. Shiren is essentially a shy siren, except in Undertale, they are in the form of a fish and not a bird. I believe this old song of the sea is in reference to Shiren's singing, and I believe this is why you can get the following line of text in battle with Shiren after certain parameters are met. A hooded figure watches the commotion from afar. Now, this only occurs if Papyrus is killed, whereas the line normally says Sans is selling tickets made out of toilet paper. Most people assume this character is Sans, but at no point in the game has he ever had his hood up. It seems odd for him to sneak around wearing it, when he hasn't worn it at any other point in the game in either timeline. Obviously, this could be argued either way, but it would be interesting if it was the river person acknowledging this singing, further cementing the legend it could be derived from. But who exactly is the river person? Why do they linger by the water for the entire game? Sure, it's their job, or at least it's assumed to be. But with the ability to only carry one person at a time, just how effective are they? And why am I stuck with a lingering feeling of sadness? Some people online like to pair the river person romantically with Gaster, and there are quite a few interesting theories that people have come up with. However, in my eyes, I sort of have a different outlook. A big part of Undertale is the concept of a perpetually repeating timeline. Flowey and Sans mention the pointlessness of it often, because if you exist in a game world, once the game ends, the timeline starts over again. I actually talked about this concept in another video of mine, so I highly recommend checking out my video about leaving games behind. Anyways, it seems like even Kara was plagued by this thought. Like their dialogue states at the end of the genocide route, they became aware they are within a video game, as stats aren't something someone would discuss in real life. With the ability to erase the world and start anew, they are trapped in a repeating timeline as well. Then we have Gaster, who was spread across time and space. He's still bound to the game world, but he was erased from existence. Finally, at the top of the food chain, we have the annoying dog, who pretty much reigns supreme and is said to have coded the game. This is the same group of people I place the river person in. To me, the river person is indeed a reference to Charon, but they don't sail between the real world and the afterlife. They exist on the edge of the game's logic. In my eyes, they are sailing right along the dividing line of the game world and the real world. I believe they have the power to teleport as well, and the fact that they always move left on the river shows that there's something weird about their travel. Rivers typically form high up in mountains and typically flow in one direction. However, that doesn't mean you can't travel in both directions on a calm river. The problem I have with the river person going left is that it would make the trip way longer than it needs to be. If for some reason the rivers of the underground connected into a circle at some point, it would still make way more sense to go to the right than to the left. The ice cubes thrown in the river have no problem heading to the right. So why wouldn't the river person simply take the easier route? If teleporting was involved, it wouldn't matter what direction they were headed in. It's apparent they have a connection to the mysterious annoying dog too, as their boat has the head of the dog on it sometimes. With the ability to sense things outside the realm of the game, like knowing what day of the week it is in a specific location somewhere, their reach is sort of beyond Flowey's, WD Gaster's, and even Kara's. None of these characters knew what was beyond the game walls, but they may have wondered why they were trapped there. And before someone says, "Swanky, it could be Monday in the world of Undertale," and the river person could be simply referring to that, I would want to point out that you can sleep in a variety of locations in the game, and multiple times, but if you constantly check back, it is always Monday, or whatever day it is, when you talk to the river person. Regardless of how much time passes in the game, if you're playing on Monday, they will say Monday. And they're the only character to reference the outside world of the game directly. But would having that knowledge drive you insane? Would knowing your existence was nothing more than to sit at water's edge and drive people to and fro for all of eternity bring you to your wit's end? I sometimes wonder if our world we live in were to stumble upon something grand, like proof of life after death or actual planets that had intelligent life on them in our cosmos, would we feel insignificant? Would what we are doing in this very moment seem pointless in the grand scale of things? And would this thought haunt us to the end of our days? Beyond that, if you became lost mentally and drifted through a sea of echoing flowers, what things would you remember? Perhaps the echo flowers of the underground are what gifted the river person some of the knowledge that they have, some of the things that seem odd for them to know. If no one ever believed you when you tried to share what you knew, or if an annoying dog intervened anytime you tried to tell people, would flowers that hold the memories of the past become your best friends? Obviously, there's an underlying element that there are some things they shouldn't know about. But it makes me wonder if bottling up all this taboo knowledge is what drove this character to the random state of mind they have now. Perhaps this is why they don't think their name even matters to the protagonist. They feel insignificant to everything around them, a mere grain of sand in a sea of fake stars that they will never be able to see past. I know if it was me in the river person's shoes, I would be driven absolute bonkers. You're a person trapped on a river, trapped in the underground by a barrier dividing your fake world, trapped within a game that is insignificant in the scope of the real world. That's why I feel the river person is one of the saddest characters in the game. Flowey, Gaster, and Kara all tried to disrupt the system that was put before them. But the river person must carry out their role as a taxi to the main character till the end of time. And nothing about that will ever change. But now that I've dumped that on all of you, I'd love to hear your thoughts. What is your theory about the river person? Do you picture them in the same way I do? And if you do you feel really sad? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And last, I want to thank you all for your continued support on YouTube over the years. Just recently I discovered that I had broken 100 videos produced. And that's crazy. It is absolutely crazy. I really don't even know how to describe it. Really, I have no way of putting in words what it feels like to know that you guys really enjoy the content that I make. You know, when I started this journey on YouTube, it was completely full of doubt. I mean, there was doubt everywhere. I almost didn't want to start. And that's what always kept me from starting before in the past. But the kindness that the community has shown has really made all the difference. And I know I'm never ever going to be able to give that back fully. But maybe these little giveaways every 6 months or every year or something, I don't know, will be a way that I can try to do that. Maybe you'll get a code for a game or something. But just know that I'm so grateful. And I want to see where this is going to go. I want to see where YouTube is going to take me. And I have all of you to thank for that. So definitely check out the description below for the giveaway link. And once again, for the 1000th time, thank you so much for your continued support. Thanks for tuning in to this riverside trip in the underground. If you'd like to join me on my YouTube voyage and continue to dive into the lore behind Undertale, then the subscribe button is just what you're looking for. Thanks for watching, guys and gals, and until my next video, cheers. If you like this video, perhaps you'll enjoy some of my others. There's a slew of other theories on this channel too, so regardless, I hope you enjoy.